Hello everyone, and welcome back to Meeple Leaf Reviews. My name is Jeffrey.
And I am Jacob.
And we're doing another review today. This one's an old favorite of ours.
Yeah.
Rococo.
Rococo.
Now, I remember when I first sold you the idea of this game.
Right.
And you were like, what?
Yeah.
You know, being big, tough Canadian men, hearing about a game where you're making dresses.
Right.
Get you excited.
But I was actually excited when you told me about it. I was like blown away, and I laughed at the theme.
Yeah.
But I was like, that sounds really interesting. I want to play this game. That's such a weird concept.
Yeah.
I would have never thought in a million years that they would come out with a game about making dresses.
Yeah, in the old French era, you're making dresses, either selling them to get money,
Yeah.
which you don't do a whole lot of in the game.
Right.
You might maybe sell one or two dresses here and there, but mostly you're going to be sending them to the king's ball and trying to. It's kind of like a little bit of an area majority in the different regions.
Area control. Yeah.
Well, before we get too far into that, let's start off with the art and components of the game.
Sure. I think the art's great. And components are all good quality as well.
Yeah.
Cardstock is, I guess, maybe just par for cardstock, but you got some wooden discs, and you got some cubes and weird kind of cylinder-shaped bits as well for the thread and the lace that you're using to make the dresses, and you got some tiles for the cloth. Everything's good. I really like it.
Yeah, I've played this game now 14 times, I believe.
Right. And
all the components have held up well over multiple plays. Like there's no wear or tear on anything. So yeah, art and components is good. Yeah. I like the art. Everything else is definitely sturdy and going to hold up.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about the rules and teaching?
Well, I've never taught the game myself. Maybe just little bits here and there. Right. If someone had forgotten a rule, I'll shout something out. But I've never looked at the rule book. From a learning standpoint, I think everything... It's a little harder to say now that we've played the game so many times. Because I've played the game about 10 times now, and the first time I played it was well over a year ago.
I think the only thing that's kind of a hurdle to get over in learning this game, because everything else is kind of easy. There's one or two hurdles. One is the whole deck building kind of aspect. Like you're building this deck of cards, but at the end of the round, which cards you draw or you actually choose them can get a little confusing. Because whatever cards you have left in your deck, if there's less than 3, or 3 or less, you have to take those. 3 or more, I should say. Then if there's less than 3, you have to take those, but then you get to choose from all the remaining cards that you have, and then you put those to make your kind of draw pile.
Yeah, you would pick up the 1 or 2 that's left in your draw pile, then you take your entire discard pile, that becomes your new draw pile, and you pick one of those cards, because you draw 3 cards.
Yeah.
So then you'd pick from those, and that's your new draw pile, and then those cards that you play then go in your discard pile, and you have that new draw pile still on the following turn to pick your 3 from there.
Getting people through the motion of that and kind of realizing...
Yeah, they want to shuffle their discard pile, but you don't need to, because you're just going to look through it and pick what you want.
Yeah. And then also there's implications of that. If you have 6 cards that you get to choose from, well, you choose 3 each round. Not only are you choosing this hand of cards, you're also choosing your next hand of cards. So if you don't put the right mix of cards in each, you could get messed up. And then that leads into the one last thing that's kind of a little bit of a hurdle, is you have 3 different types of cards, and you use a card to take an action. You have your apprentices, your masters, and then your journeymen, dressmakers. And the master can do every action, but each other guy have restrictions on what actions they can do. Now, after playing a lot, you just know what each person can do without having to look it up.
Exactly.
But for the first one, you kind of just gotta look at your player board, and it tells you what each guy can do.
Right.
So I would say that's the two hurdles.
Yeah. The other one that I see commonly mistaken is the board. There are 5 different areas that you can go into for area control, and the 2 of them are right beside each other. And a common mistake is people think that that's one area that you're battling over, but it's 2 separate ones.
Right.
So that's another thing that you might just want to point out a couple times throughout your first game, just to remind people that, hey, this is actually 2 different areas.
Yeah.
Just so, because you're also fighting, while you're fighting for a majority in each of those 5 areas, the first person to go in all 5 areas gets a bonus. Gets a bunch of bonus points. So you're trying to be the first to get everywhere.
Right.
And if they think that that's one zone, they're just like, yeah, I'm the first to get there.
And
then you're like, no, not at all.
So moving on to the theme, we've already talked a little bit about that. You know, making dresses and renting them out to people or selling them.
Right.
I love the theme.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's unique. It's different.
And I feel like I am sort of making dresses.
Yeah.
You know, you're gathering the silk, you're gathering the lace and the thread, and then you're just like, oh, there's this whole selection of patterns out there, and you're like, oh, which one am I gonna make?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, I like this dress here, and you make that up, and you either sell it then and you get a bunch of money right away, or you put it out in the ball for area control.
Right. All right, so let's head into the meat of it.
Okay.
The gameplay and mechanics. So this kind of has like just a whole hodgepodge of different concepts. There's kind of like a deck building thing where you can recruit new characters into your pool. You can also thin out your deck, get rid of characters that you don't want. So you can either go with a bigger deck or try and make a more leaner, efficient one.
Yeah.
But if you have a bigger deck, there's some cards that give you bonuses for having more and more cards in your deck.
Exactly. It can be really beneficial late game when you have like a really large size deck that you can play these cards to get a whole ton of money or a whole ton of victory points or whatnot. So then, and those are like, money is a bit of a tough resource to come by because a lot of the things are very expensive.
Yeah. The other thing we talked about is the area control. You have like actually six different areas because you have the 5 ballrooms, and you're going to try and control area with the dresses that you're renting out. And then some spaces you need to have the master dress builder put them there.
Yeah. And
then there's like a fireworks section where you're trying to area control up there as well. So you're always fighting. You're looking, where can I win?
Yeah.
I want to get the most points. So I can't win here, but at least if I get a guy in, I can get the second place point. So you're constantly looking and assessing, where can I put my dresses to get me the most points.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, each of these little zones, you can, if you use a master to make a dress, then it can go into the master slot. And if you don't use a master, then you have to go elsewhere. The master slot is a tiebreaker for if there's a tie between majorities.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to go in there, but then other slots have bonuses that you can get, where you'll get some free lace or some free money, or you'll get some silk or something like that by going into those slots. So you're kind of like, oh man, I could really use that lace right now, so maybe I should go here in that zone. So it's you're tempted in different areas to go into different places to get bonuses.
Yeah, and then finally, there's resource management. You gotta collect all these different ingredients, different color silks, because there's four different colors, and you need lace and you need thread, and then you need to build these guys. You got to use money to pay for the patterns for some of the dresses, pay for different ornaments that give you extra bonus points and stuff like that. So it's a lot of different mechanics all pushed together, and it makes a really, really great game. Yeah,
the ornaments, I want to talk about that for a second. So one of the action is you can purchase these ornament spots, and some of them are in the area control, and that's like a tiebreaker as well for majorities. So if you can't get a dress in there, you can get an ornament in that zone to count towards majority and for tiebreakers. But there's always in each game, there's a section where you can make some extra money by buying these ornaments.
Yeah.
So you can get money for every ornament that you have on the board in addition to your starting income or your round income. And then there's another section where you can put an ornament to get money for every dress that you have in the ball total. And those are great ways to make money, but there isn't enough for everyone in the game to go there. So you got to jump on it really early game to get in there so you get that constant flow of money coming in. I find that, for me anyways, I feel like if you don't get in on any of them, you've lost the game.
Yeah, it can
be. Would you agree with that assessment? I think you'd be really hard pressed. Maybe you haven't lost the game. Maybe that's harsh, but you're only going to have your $5 income every single turn. Yeah, whereas everyone else is getting up to. I was getting 15 at the end of this last game we played.
And if you don't get in, then that means that someone or multiple people have gotten in twice.
Yeah,
and then they're doubling up on those bonuses. So yeah, you're gonna be hampered quite a bit.
In a 3-player game, there are 4 slots, 2 for each of the ones that I talked about, dresses and decorations.
Yeah, and then in a 4 and 5-player game, there's 6.
Right. So then there's never enough for everyone. So you're battling for those, and they're really important. And I think if it's your first game playing this, you really need to tell people, hey, this right here is ultra important. Make sure you're fighting to get in there.
Yeah.
Don't just ignore it because it's going to hurt you.
Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about with this game is there's not enough great things to do for everyone. So every time it's someone else's turn, they're taking the action that you want to do. And then you're like, oh man, I need to rethink. And then it's like the next person's like, man, you took my action again. Every time, it's just the things that are really awesome to do kind of stick out. And you need to be like fighting over that first player token. Yeah. Because to get first player, you actually have to take an action to get it. So
which is rough. And only your best two. So we mentioned earlier there's 3 different tiers of workers. You have your master, journeyman, and your apprentice. Your apprentice can't get, it's the Queen's favor is what it's called. Your apprentice can't go there. So you have to spend one of your 2 best characters of your 3 cards to go and grab it. Yeah. Which hurts, but you also get $5 for doing it.
Yeah.
And then your first player, which is really important.
Really important because people are going to be taking your actions all over the place.
Yeah.
And you're just going to be, you need to have a plan, a backup plan, and a second backup plan.
Yeah. There's lots of cursing in this game as you're playing. Like, I can't believe you just took that action.
Yeah, and it kind of goes in with that whole majority, you're fighting over these different territories. You really are trying to be the first one to get the dresses in this thing. It's so cutthroat for such.
It's a really cutthroat game.
Yeah.
I never really viewed it as a cutthroat game, but the more I play it, I'm just like, man, it's ruthless.
Yeah, ruthless. This industry of making dresses is so ruthless.
So there you go. If you're thinking, Rococo making dresses, that's so I can't do it. It's really cutthroat.
Yeah.
It's vicious. So just look at it that way.
Yeah. So anything else that you wanted to bring up with this game?
Man, I don't know.
There is one negative.
Well, price point. We need to talk about price point too.
There's one negative about the game is that there isn't a score track.
Well, yeah, there's just score tokens.
There's score tokens, and when you're scoring at the end and you're handing out score tokens, and then you need to constantly be changing up score tokens for the higher point ones because there isn't enough lower point ones.
For, lots of people.
It can just be a little bit fiddly at the end. It would have been so much better if they had a score track where it'd be easier. Oh, you get 2 points, up, and then it would just made it a little bit easier. For that being
score pads, those pads of paper where it has all the different categories, and you just write down what everyone scored in each of the categories.
That would have been better.
Yeah,
but that's a minor thing.
Yeah, very minor.
But it just kind of is worth mentioning. The scoring is a little bit finicky at the end.
Sure. One other thing, what do you think about the iconography in the game? Because there's a little bit for the decorations. You can get bonus points for having decorations. There's the score point marker, or victory point marker, I should say.
It's all clear.
Everything's clear. I don't think there was anything where I was going, oh, what does this mean?
Yeah, there's nothing that looks similar to something else, and you're like, oh. And then once you know the icons, you know what everything does.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like, oh, what does this group of symbols mean when they're put together?
Right.
It's very clear. Oh, I spend 1 money, I get a silk.
I would say the only thing is there are 6 endgame scoring cards that always come out in the final 2 rounds of the game, and you might have a question about those, but they're fairly straightforward.
Yeah. All right, so you want to talk about price point?
Yeah. So this game is how much? 57 Canadian?
57 Canadian.
$57 Canadian. Do you think that's a good price for this game?
Yes.
Yeah?
I would happily pay $57 any day of the week to pick up this game.
Right. I completely agree. I think that is a very reasonable price point for what you're getting in this box. Components are all nice. There is a lot of gameplay, a lot of replayability in the game as well.
A lot of different strategies that you can try out.
Yeah, I find I'm constantly trying new things every time I play the game. And maybe after, 12 to 15 plays, you've probably tried mostly everything, but you can still kind of switch it up between a couple different techniques.
Yeah, so. and I mean, every time you play, you're playing against other people.
Yeah, and as we said, it's very cutthroat. People are taking your actions from you. It's not like, oh yeah, I always go this one route because I get this one card. The likelihood of you getting that card ever again after you've maybe won huge points with it, someone else is going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to get that. Yeah. And they're going to, have first player marker, and they'll just steal it up out from under you. And yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's a really great game. For my final rating,
okay,
I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
This is a game I would recommend to anyone who likes Euro games.
Yeah. For
sure. Definitely check this one out. And I don't foresee ever wanting to get rid of it out of my collection.
Right.
Played it 14 times now. Hopefully I'll have another 100 plays of it by the time I've worn the game out.
Yeah. I am also giving this a 9 out of 10. It's one of my favorites for sure. It's not in my collection, but I'm constantly tempted to buy it and add it to my collection. The one thing is that my wife has really struggles with the deck building, drawing cards, and because of that, she always says she doesn't like this game. And it's not because she doesn't like the gameplay. She's always struggling to figure out what cards she draws for whatever reason. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
But that's the only reason why I haven't bought it.
All right. Well, that's Rococo. If that sounded interesting to you, check it out.
Definitely check it out. And look past the theme. If you're like, I can't own a dress building game, look past that theme and play this game.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
It's awesome.
Also, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That definitely helps us out.
Yeah. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at MeepleLeaf. I almost said Maple Leaf there. At MeepleLeaf. Also go to boardgamelinks.com and give us some hearts, show us the love. We'll have a link in the description down below.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.